Good morning, students. Welcome to the subject of business policy and strategy. We are dealing with unit number 5, that is all about strategic framework. In the previous sessions, we have already introduced ourselves to various aspects related to strategic framework. We have tried to see what is strategic framework. We have also overviewed strategic analysis and choice. In today's session, we'll be carrying forward with the strategic gap. But before going to the strategic gap, let us quickly just refresh ourselves with the strategic framework. If we try to understand what is strategic framework, then strategic framework is such a kind of method that is used to define that how a project or initiative supports the key objectives of the business, or maybe the key objectives of the stakeholders. It plays very important role as far as the success or the failure of business organization is concerned, right? There are 4 important components of strategic framework, that is business objective, approach, measurement and target, right, on which the whole structure of strategic framework is dependent. So to ensure success, the strategic framework must be based on the organization's MVG, that is said to be mission, vision and goals, right? So strategic framework is such a kind of tool, or is such a kind of method which provides the manager a kind of immunization against the uncertain conditions that are going to prevail in the market, and provides a kind of safeguard or a shield against the unexpected conditions of the market. So we can say that strategic analysis is to be done, right? In the strategic framework, a strategic choice is to be taken up, and that is what is said to be on the basis of strategic framework. That is what is important in the success or failure of the organization. So that is all about the strategic framework. As you can see it here in the the diagram, that it is based, or it is made up of 4 different elements. As you can see it, business objectives, approach, measurement and targets, right? And it has the base of MVG, that is mission, vision and goals, right? So this is how the strategic framework works in the organization. So here basically strategic framework, when we are dealing with the strategic framework, it is 2 important things that is used. That strategic framework, for making strategic framework, you have to take up with the strategic analysis and the strategic choice, right? So as you can see it again here, what is strategic framework? It is kind of initiative taken up, or maybe the project taken up, or for the product lines that may be taken up by the managers, right, based on MVG of the company. That means mission, vision and goals. That is the framework, and that is what you want to achieve with the help of strategic framework. That is the structure. Then if you want to get that, we have to do the strategic analysis. When we take up with the strategic analysis, it is what? It is the internal and external environment that is to be studied, which leads to strategic choice, right? What is strategic choice? We can say strategic choice is making the correct decision, or taking or selecting the correct strategies out of the alternatives available to us. That is what is said to be strategic choice. Today's session will be all about the strategic gap. The important term and the important area of strategic framework is considered to be the strategic gap also. Now what is this strategic gap all about? See, we all know that strategic analysis is very important part of business, and so is the strategic gap. Now what is this strategic gap? We can say that it is nothing but the evaluation of the difference between desired outcomes and the actual outcomes, and what must be done to achieve a desired goals. That means whatever you have desired as the outcomes, and whatever the actual outcomes are, it's not necessary that every time whatever you desire the outcomes or the real outcomes will be as per the desired goals, right? At that time, whatever the difference is seen or noticed is said to be the strategic gap. So it attempts to determine what a company should do differently to achieve a particular goal by looking at the time frame, management, budget and other factors to determine where the shortcomings lie. See, without strategic gap, we will never come to know that what was desired and what we have actually been able to achieve, and what is not achieved. Those not achieved things should be detected right? And it may be due to any of the shortfalls in the time frame, maybe the management policy, maybe the budget, or any unknown factor which leads to this gap, and that shortcoming has to be found out with the help of strategic gap. So on doing this evaluation, what management comes to know is very clearly about the gap, or if any strategic planning that they had to accord for the betterment of the unit. So once you come to know about the gap, then and then we can strive to complete that gap. So it's simply we can understand that strategic gap is what? It's a difference between what? The current performance minus or desired performance, right? What you wanted to do and what you have been actually able to do. When there is a gap, that is said to be strategic gap. The gap or the shortcomings may be due to any of the reasons, and those reasons are to be found out here in the strategic gap. So the periodic assessment of such actual performance is compared with what? The benchmarked performance, or maybe the desired performance, and then the deficiency of the performance is described as the gap, right? So strategic gap analysis is what? It enables the company to make the best use of current resources, because unless you don't find out the gap, if you don't detect the gap, you will never come to know that what exactly we have been able to achieve and what was to be achieved. So with the help of strategic gap, the company can find out that how these resources or current resources are being used. So after finding the gap, it can prevent the company's performance below its potential. That means whatever was desired, and if you have been working or if you have been performing very low than the desired, then that can be found out, and you can prevent the company again further to deteriorate, right? So it strengthens the competitive advantage of the company in the competitive environment. Thus many units fail to plan strategically. That means they do not have the capabilities and competencies to achieve their basic targets, but fail to use their full potentials also. So here the strategic gap analysis would help such a business or institution to bridge the gap, that is the gap between the current and the potential positions. So what we can remember here with the help of a formula there, that is strategic gap is what? Is equal to current performance minus the desired performance. Or we can also say that strategic gap is equal to what the firm is doing less what the firm must do. This is what is about the strategic gap. When we are learning strategic gap, there are few characteristics also of the strategic gap that we must clear it out. It's already available in your text, and I'm going to explain it from there itself. What is this characteristic or feature number 1? Then strategic gap analysis is 3-staged process. Like, it identifies the gap, number 1. Number 2, it develops the strategy for filling up that identified gap. And number 3, it implements the reframed strategic plan, which for sure will fill up the gap. That is characteristic number 1. Right? If we move to number 2, then strategic gap analysis is presented in the form of a formula, as we can see it. That is, strategic gap is what? What the firm is doing less what the firm must do. And the strategic gap can also be presented graphically, which tells us that there is a kind of a vertical axis and horizontal axis. Alright, vertical axis shows the output, and the horizontal axis reveals the time period. So when the potential or projected output is there and the actual output is less than what is potential or projected output, then those two lines will show a gap, and that is considered to be the strategic gap. So it can be represented graphically also. Number 4, as the characteristic, we can understand it as it facilitates the efforts of human resources to focus its attention on the basic goal, wherein it tends to deviate due to several reasons. That means every time we may not be able to achieve whatever we have been desiring or whatever has been benchmarked. When you cannot achieve up till there, it shows a gap, and that gap, that deviation may be due to several reasons, as I mentioned earlier also. Maybe because of the misuse of the resources, maybe because of any wrong managerial policies, maybe because of the time gap, or maybe because of the time management. There may be, or there may be any uncertain situations because of which we have to face this gap. And unless this gap is detected under strategic gap, we cannot find out the reasons, we cannot reframe the say strategies, and we cannot implement it accordingly. So strategic gap is considered to be a very important phase of strategic framework, and it is also a kind of phase, or also a kind of stage through which we can find out the reasons of the gap, and we can correct it also, right? So it is very crucial part of strategic framework, right? When we are moving towards the advantages of strategic gap analysis, whatever has been discussed right up till here, we can even put it in the form of the advantages or benefits, that if a company is taking up with strategic gap, then the following are the advantages. Like number one, it is with the help of strategic gap, timely actions can be taken up by the management, because we are going to find out the reason, we are going to find out the gap, and at that time a timely action by the management can be taken up, so that we are not deteriorating, or company is not deteriorating its performance further, right? That is advantage number one. Again, number two, it facilitates the best usage of the resources. How? By preventing the maybe a misallocation of the scarce and valuable resources. If you get to find out the gap, and you can find out the reasons also, that and reason may be, one of the reason may be that there is a misuse of the resource, which is scarce also and valuable also, then that can be corrected, and the best say resource can be, or the best way to find to use this resource can be found out as well. We go to the third one, it improves the competitive advantage of the company. Naturally, because with the help of gap, we are able to find out what are the shortfalls of the strategies, and we can rectify them, and with that we can improve, or we can sharpen the competitive advantage of the company also, which is operating in completely competitive and uncertain environment. The fourth advantage, it enables the company to achieve the predetermined goals, because you have already mentioned the desired or maybe potential or projected outputs, and with the help of strategic gap, we are going to find out that, and we can definitely reach the predetermined goals thereafter. The fifth and the last advantage is it proves to be a kind of foundation for measuring the investment of time, money, and all those resources, including the human capital, to achieve the predetermined goals. We can measure, we can find out that how much investment of the money, how much investment of the resources, time, and human capital is being done. At the same time, how far they have been able to achieve the predefined goals. That is why strategic gap is a must for every company to follow, because unless it does not do that, we will never come to know as to how the predetermined goals are there and how they are to be achieved, right? So it is very crucial stage, or very crucial activity on the part of the management to take up with the strategic gap. Alright, now what we are going to do is we are going to focus on the very important part of the unit, that is all about the portfolio analysis. Now what is this portfolio analysis all about? We must have heard about the financial portfolio of the firm, right? What does that show? What does that reveal? Then it reveals a kind of investment that is being done, the financial investment that is being done by the company in the various projects, right? Now, every time, every project is not going to earn you the same. Then at that time, such kind of portfolio analysis with the different methods which we are going to see it further in the chapter, right? That can be done by the companies to find out that which investment is going to be better, which investment is going to be fruitful over the others, which investment requires, or which area or which portfolio requires a much amount of investment, where you need to put more amount of investment, where you want to hold the investment, where you want to divest or disinvest the investment, where you want to just check it out with the growth. All these things can be known with the portfolio analysis, and that is why portfolio analysis for any company plays very crucial role, right? So we will try to understand the portfolio analysis, and from the next lecture onwards we'll be checking out with the different methods with which the portfolio analysis can be done. Here we are overviewing the portfolio analysis. Now what is this portfolio analysis? It can be considered as a tool. What kind of tool? By which the management identifies, to recognize, right, and evaluate the various businesses that make up a company. See, a company may be making up or may be made up of so many various types of business. Now every time these various businesses or various projects may be not giving you the same kind of returns which or as against the investment that you have made, right? So it is a kind of tool through which we can identify, we can recognize, at the same time we can also evaluate what is the standing of the different businesses, different projects taken up by the company. So in portfolio analysis, what top management views? It views its product lines and business units as a series of investment from which it expects to get the return, right? Whatever the product lines may be, whatever the business units may be taking up as the different activities, and how these investment or what type of investment is done in these areas, and what is the expected return, that is being checked out with the help of portfolio analysis, right? So the best business portfolio is the one that best fits the company's strength and weakness against the opportunities in the environment. That means unless you take up with the portfolio analysis, we will never come to know that which business we should continue with and which business should be dropped out. Suppose the business that fits the best, that can be considered as that project or that business which has got the strength which matches the opportunities, right? Unless you take up with the portfolio analysis, we will never come to know that which investment is fruitful, how the investment can be taken up further, where to disinvest. Those things will not come to, we will never come to know, and unless the company comes to know this, it will not be able to frame the strategies accordingly. So it is very crucial part. Let me tell you, it is very interesting also to learn about the portfolio analysis of the firm. The various tools or the various methods that we are going to learn further in the further chapters to or further lectures to come. It is going to be very interesting. I wish that you sit with the note and a pen, so that while we are taking up with each method or each model, we can relate it with whatever is being explained, and it becomes very easy and logical to understand then the whole concept of the models that we are going to learn further. Anyways, so it can be defined as a technique. What is technique? Portfolio analysis is a technique that helps the strategists in taking decisions with regards to individual product or business. Definitely, portfolio analysis is a tool, it's a method, it's a technique through which what the strategies do, the strategies with the help of portfolio analysis and the outcome of the portfolio analysis, they can take the decisions which are vital, which are very important, related to maybe to the individual product or maybe to the business of the firm, right? This is what is said to be the portfolio analysis. So it is a primarily used for competitive analysis and corporate strategic planning in multi-products and multi-business firms. Portfolio analysis is very important when multiple products are taken up, maybe the business is into or the company is into multiple business. At that time it proves to be very important, and it proves to be very effective also. So, right? So in order to design the business portfolio, the manager just analyze its current portfolio and decides which business avenues should receive more, less or no investment. Ultimate purpose of portfolio analysis is for the managers who find out that what is the current portfolio and decides that how the current portfolio will help to earn the money in future, whether they should receive more amount of investment, whether the less amount of investment should be done in the current portfolio, or there should be no investment at all. That can be decided very well with the help of portfolio analysis. This is done by the manager, and this technique is used by the manager to check out with the different business that is undertaken by a company. Why this is done? Then we can say that with the help of this portfolio analysis, he will come to know whether to invest more in the current portfolio, whether to take up a little bit less in the investment in such a kind of current portfolio, or maybe to withdraw altogether the investment, or no investment is to be done, right? This, because it is related to the important resources of the company, the resources are to be used properly and they are to be justified as far as their returns are concerned. It is very important on a part of a manager to take up with such kind of portfolio analysis. So depending upon the analysis, management may develop the growth strategies for adding new products or maybe the businesses to the firm's portfolio, right? So what we have tried to understand under portfolio analysis is, it is a kind of technique which can be taken up by the following types or various techniques that we are going to see it. And under this technique, what a manager does is he analyzes the different product lines, he analyzes the different businesses taken up by the company and tries to evaluate that which one is the best and where the investment can be done, more investment can be done, whether to earn the returns, whether there is less investment to be done, withdraw the investment from the present business and can be diverted somewhere else, or at all no investment is to be taken up. So only after this analysis, only after this kind of examination, a company comes to know, and that is why portfolio analysis can be considered to be a very important tool on the part of management to take up various decisions further for the business, right? So this is what is the portfolio analysis all about. There are various techniques that can be adopted, but before going to the techniques, we can see few characteristics or nature of portfolio analysis, which is already there in your textbook, like modernization of business, which does not change the existing production capacity, that can be known, right? Replacement of old or obsolete machines or processes, which increases the production capacity, can be studied. Strategic gap investment may be taken up for the diverse production capacity. Such investment eliminates the idle production capacity of some imbalanced machines, that can be known with the help of portfolio analysis. Next is expansion of existing production capacity, which may increase the production volume of the existing products. That can be the step that can be taken up. Again, diversification if required in related or unrelated lines can also be known, or else strategic investment in plant services, like say captive power generation, or maybe personal services may be given, that may be provided to the employees, maybe to continue with it or not. Such kind of decisions may be taken up with the help of strategic analysis. Now, to perform strategic analysis, here as far as your syllabus is concerned, 7 strategic types of techniques have been given to us, and that we are going to study one by one. As you can see it is BCG model that we will be learning, G model, product market evaluation metrics, experience curve, directional policy metrics, life cycle portfolio metrics, and grant strategy selection metrics we are going to study as the techniques of portfolio analysis, through which what company comes to know at the end, company will be able to find out that which investment or which business or the current business can be continued, which can be stopped, and which can be further there is no requirement to continue with the business. That is what we can come to know with the help of the portfolio analysis. So it can be defined as a set of techniques which helps the strategist to take up the strategic decisions related to any individual product or any business that a firm is into, right? So this is what is all about the portfolio analysis. So in today's session we have completed with the part of strategic gap. Strategic gap is nothing but the difference between whatever was desired and whatever we have been able to achieve. That gap can be recognized, identified, and those gaps can be filled up with the correct strategies, that is known as strategic gap. And the next concept that we have learned today is portfolio analysis, with which the manager, with the help of portfolio analysis, can find out the kind of say the techniques, can use different techniques which helps them to take up the strategic decisions related to the investment which is most fruitful in the multi products, or maybe where the multi businesses are taken up by a company, right? What these models are all about, how these technique can be applied, or what are the different techniques that can be used for portfolio analysis, that we will check out in the next session. So till we meet next, it's a goodbye from my side. Take care of yourselves. Thank you.